Hey everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Eunice and I lead the growth team at Funnel. For those whom we haven't had the chance of meeting yet, Funnel is Southeast Asia's largest private investments platform and a licensed recognized market operator for ECF in Malaysia. We leverage technology and data, enabling promising startups and SMEs to raise capital from investors in Malaysia. Follow us on LinkedIn and Facebook at Funnel. We'd love to keep in touch and hopefully meet you in person when it becomes possible. So I'm just going to start off with some housekeeping before we kick things off. We'll be taking questions through the Q&A feature. You can find the button at the bottom of your screen, so feel free to send us your questions at any point during the event. We'll also be recording this session, so if you have to miss any part of this, don't worry, you'll be able to access it on our blog. So I'm really excited to bring you a conversation today with our first and long overdue panelists of amazing women leaders in Malaysia. At every stage of life, when a woman is given her deserving chance and invested in, statistics show that she drives profit for everyone, not just herself. The Boston Consulting Group analyzed that if women and men participated equally as entrepreneurs, global GDP could rise by 3 to 6%. And others show that having women at the C-suite level significantly increases net margins. And women in Malaysia actually account for 33% of positions in senior management teams within companies, as opposed to the global average of 29%, according to a Grant Thornton International Business Report. Now, despite performing above global averages, there is obviously room to do better. And today we have with us 3 women leaders who are on the ground propelling the local economy in their various domains. And today we will hear a bit more about their journey, their challenges, and the many hats these ladies wear in trying to forge a more equitable path for the next generation of Malaysian and Southeast Asian women. So we'll be kicking off the session with our panel. Joining us this evening, we have Ambika Sanggaran, partner of BGBG Initiative America. BGBG Initiative is a social enterprise devoted to inspiring people to live a more sustainable life by nurturing human creativity and rethinking the way we do things. And Marika is an innovative education space that provides an ecosystem that brings together students, professionals, communities, and makers, and connects them to real projects for income generating opportunities. Next, I'm very happy to welcome Elaine Hong, co-founder and CEO of NER, a direct-to-consumer company that provides premium quality organic family and care products at an affordable price to consumers and strives to be a holistic feminine care brand that provides safer and more eco-friendly solutions. Welcome, Elaine. And last but not least, I'm super honored to welcome Joanne Enriquez, CEO of investment account platform IAP, the world's first Islamic multi-bank investment platform, which works towards unlocking the efficient flow of capital into SMEs in Malaysia through crowdfunding. So welcome, ladies, and thank you for your time. And let's just get straight into it. My first question is for Ambika. You've been with BGBG from the very start, right? What has sparked your initiative and with Marika as well?
Well, thanks, Eunice, for having me here. Yeah, with both BGBG and Marika, the reason of starting both businesses, it's more about creating social change. When it comes to BGBG, it's more towards addressing environmental challenges and also environmental-based community challenges. When it comes to Marika, it's more about education and also youth, more towards youth development, more towards community development that are focusing on reskilling and upskilling. So those are the 2 differences. But for both organizations, the whole reason of starting the whole business is about creating and constructively building these impacts within our business and also the country and Southeast Asian region. Yeah.
That's very, I guess they're very connected together, right?
Yes, they are actually. So
Yeah,
it's very interdependent.
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Elaine, from fashion to sustainable fashion, and now to organic pets, what inspired you
Yes.
to the path that you're currently on today?
Uh, okay, sorry. Well, thank you so much for having me as well. Well, to answer your question in a very honest way, I think while growing up, I didn't tell myself like, okay, someday I'm gonna start a sanitary pads business. But it's the journey that led me there. So I used to be in fashion. I used to be in fast fashion, to be honest. If you guys wonder what fast fashion is where clothes are produced rapidly, mass production, without thinking about whether or not the people there are paid well, whether or not the fabrics are using the more eco-friendly materials that doesn't does any harm to our skin, whether or not the cultivation of the crops has been properly maintained. These are some of the very general issues that is not being addressed in fast fashion. So after that fast fashion stint, I I sort of dived into sustainable fashion, meaning to say we think about a more circular way of producing our design ideas, but but also not foregoing the environmental and social impact of the industry, because they always say that fashion is the second most polluting industry after oil. That's what is always been channeled in terms of statistics. So I'm very much in love with what I do in sustainable fashion. It was actually BG that inspired me um, for all of the efforts that we do in sustainable fashion. But after that, I realized that okay, I feel like I've been putting too many effort in clothes, and we don't really need so many clothes in this world. So after that, me and my business partner, we came together, and then we sort of just discussed like what is the next thing that we would like to do, because I've always wanted to get into business. So one thing that I've always come across is I always have discomfort whenever I have period. So there is little to no innovation at all when it comes to sanitary pads, because the big boys in the industry, for example, Unicharm, P&G, they've always been in this personal care space for as long as we can remember, and there is this little to no technology advances in terms of pads. So we did our research and realized, oh, there is such thing as organic cotton pads, but the ones that's being sold in Malaysia, it's very, very expensive. And people like me, I wouldn't want to burn a hole in my pocket just to spend on something that is a necessity. So me with my sustainable fashion background and my business partner's technology wit, we came together and we started Enya together. Um, and that's how Enya is born, and that's how I shifted from sustainable fashion to doing sanitary pads. Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense as well if you think about it. This is an age where sustainability is not something that's, in fashion anymore. It's something that's really a necessary conversation. So thank you very much
Yep.
for starting Enya. Um, Now
Thank
on
you.
to Joanne. I understand that you're a mom to three wonderful children. So
Wow.
you're CEO of your home and as well as the CEO at investment account platform.
Yes.
And you also run your own business on the side. So how do you actually balance your roles as a leader and an entrepreneur and a mother?
Good question. First of all, our greetings of salam to everyone. It's a breath of fresh air to be around women for a change. So it's a good conversation. I would have pulled in my daughter. She's 12, so she can listen here, but she's downstairs. Anyways, I think first and foremost, you really have to know what you value the most. Opportunities will come and go, challenges will come and go, but you really have to know what you value the most. And from there, of course, proper time management and everything else will just fall into place. If you don't if you don't hold on to what you value, when a new opportunity comes and you just let go of that, it will just disrupt everything in a very negative way. However, if you know what's important for you and you really hold on to that, and don't compromise those that are not compromisable, then even if you achieve those things that are secondary or not achieve them, it becomes incidental. So I think that's what has worked for me from my journey from. I'm not sure if any of you are married. I feel, are any of you three married? No, so everyone's single. So
I'm married, but I just don't have kids.
not yet. Okay. How long have you been married?
I didn't know you're married.
How long have I been married? A year plus.
Very fresh, very
I
fresh.
don't even remember anymore. You see.
Yeah, it's as if 2020 just passed by like that, right?
Yeah, from the journey of I mean, like what has been shared, your business opportunities as an entrepreneur will evolve from fashion to sustainable to now personal care, sustainable. I mean, all of this will come and go, but if you hold on to what's important, it's okay. Some will match your plans, some will not, some will exceed your expectations, some will not. But if you hold on to what's important, things will go on as they should eventually. So I think that's key. Then of course, time management, and also asking for help, and that knowing that you have a support group with people around you, whether it's family or adopted family or friends. Always remember you're not alone in the journey of it all. So yeah, so that's I think how I manage my time and how I've survived this long. But truth be told, when I look back, like when I just arrived in Malaysia 6 years ago, and I didn't know how to drive on that side of the road, because in the US we drove on the other side of the car. I said, oh my gosh, what do I do just to be able to stop riding the taxi? Grab wasn't that prominent that time. You hail the taxi and it comes. So I was using the taxi for 6 months, I believe. No. August, September, October, November. Yeah, about 6 months. And looking back now that you have the car and you can drive in that side, how did I manage my life for 6 months riding the cab? So in retrospect, I think things will just happen the way it should, as I've said. But I guess that's it. Yeah.
I'm gonna come back to that point about your social support system, because I think that's really important. But I want to go to Ambika and just share with everybody like another data point, right? So don't know if you guys know this, but as of 2018, only about 20% of Malaysian SMEs are women-owned. So tapping into your own entrepreneurship journey, I wanted to find out from Anvika, first of all, uh, sustainability and green business is like making the news for good reason right now. And like I said earlier, it's not just in fashion anymore. It's really a crucial point of discussion in our society. How challenging has it been for you as an entrepreneur to incorporate green business practices and convince your investors and corporate partners that this is an opportunity worth supporting?
Okay, so I guess the issue, right? The investors, I believe, will come when you have consumers and customers, because that's where your product is proven lah. So the hardest part was actually to convince the consumers or customers. So and as you see, there's like right now, not so much right now, but in the last year, I think from the beginning of last year, there was a lot of traction on environmental issues and also sustainable products. At that time, that was good. Like our products were accepted and stuff. But then, like right before that, right, whenever we were, for example, we were putting our products, our fashion products, fashion items in one of the shopping malls, one of the prominent shopping malls, and we had all this write-ups saying like, okay, this product is made out of recycled materials, it's upcycling, sustainable, etc., etc. No sales. And then I removed the plate, right? And then we had sales. So our consumers thought that, oh, why should I buy or spend money because it's trash? You made it from trash, so you're supposed. And a lot of the time, the customers will say, oh, you should give it to me at discounted price because it's made out of waste materials. But that's not the point. Because it is made out of waste materials, we actually went through a lot more efforts than regular material to actually make the products. And it was paid fairly. There was a lot more sustainable elements that were included, right? So for us, the challenge is in the consumer's perception and also convincing them. And once that happens, I think investors will come out. That's not so much of a problem. And the other part is when it's like B2C. When it's B2B, it's more about the tendering process, and also in corporate orders, you need to give 3 quotations. The sustainable product will definitely be more expensive than the cheapest quotation that were given. That's because you just need to pay ethical. The moment that you're paying ethical, you already need to pay people above minimum wage and all those things. That's the. So then with that, we won't be the lowest quotation. And if the procurement manager only look at the lowest quotation, then there's no market for sustainable products for a long time, but even in the future. So I think the procurement officers and the procurement policies and procedures need to change. They cannot just look at the cheapest product, but they need to look at the sustainable product. Then we can compete. So these two are the biggest hurdle from my opinion.
Okay, that's really interesting and very insightful. I wonder whether that's sort of slowly changing at the moment. Yeah, you can share that with us later. I'm gonna move on to Elaine now. So Elaine, I know you're fundraising right now for Enya, and
Yep.
I know that there's this widely known gender gap in the fundraising world as well, where much of the funding actually goes to male founders more than female founders. But there's obviously a lot of things that are being done to address this in the region. But from your own personal experience, have there been any differences when it comes to pitching to male or female investors, especially when period care is not so openly talked about still?
Yeah. I think when it comes to investors, based on my experience, of course, I find that the female investors are the ones that tend to understand the business model more and understand the necessity of incorporating our unique selling point, which for Enya's product is organic cotton sanitary pads. The organic cotton is our unique selling point, and female investors per se, they do understand why is it important to choose something that is better for a body part that is so sensitive, especially during our periods. So health-wise, they would understand that. But I think when it comes to investing, I would say that the potential investors that I met, they are both. We are just very grateful that they are both. There's no such thing as female investors understand our business model more or male investors understand business more because we are a female-centric business or because we sell sanitary pads. So ultimately, it comes to whether or not consumers want it, whether or not there is a demand for the market, whether or not there is potential for growth in this business, or whether or not there's opportunity for a market leap. So that was the direction and the vision that we want to tell investors. So we're not just a sanitary pads company, we're also a femtech company. Why we're femtech is because we are a subscription based company. So that is the key main point. I think in terms of both male and female investors, they both sort of have their own understanding of where they're coming from. I think from our point of view, um, for me, I think the challenge would be network and connections. Yeah, I think that's about it. But overall, we're just very grateful that they're okay to deal with and they understand.
That's good to know. Thanks for that. Um, so now I'm gonna move on to Joanne. Um, so I know Malaysia has been taking the lead, like in growing the Islamic finance landscape, and more women are actually seeking opportunities within this sector as well. Um, do you think there's anything more that can be done to sort of even out that proportion of women in Islamic finance, either locally and globally?
Just like in anything, even with the experiences that both have, it's a matter of education. Islamic finance is becoming more mainstream because of the growing population of Muslims, and the demand is obviously higher, and the trajectory of its growth is of course attracting attention in all corners of the globe. But for people who are not familiar, Islamic finance is a matter of course religion, and so it is not like a trend. The reason why, in this is my opinion, the reason why we have not yet it's not like I'm gonna go Islamic finance, then I'm gonna go back to conventional finance. It doesn't work that way. The reason why the pie is not larger, any larger than it is now, is because the offering is very small. Many countries are still struggling on how to make Islamic finance mainstream. And this is, of course, within the banking space. But alternatives such as the crowdfunding in the capital market space is becoming bigger. Now you have digital banking that's also then allowing for more creative solutions in the Islamic finance space. So that is why there's an attraction there. And that is why we urge everyone, Muslims and non-Muslims alike, to study this, is because it's not like people will shift after they've gone to Islamic finance. No, it is going to grow, and the depth is going to become deeper, primarily because there is still a very, very big void in terms of offerings, whether it's in financing, whether it's in investment, whether it's in access, whether it's in regulation. It's still at its very infancy stage. Malaysia, for example, I mean, you're all Malaysians. For me, the first entry into Islamic finance in Malaysia is the creation of Tabung Haji, even before they created the bank. So, I mean, and that is what, 1960s only. But the tenets of what we follow in Islamic finance is as old as Islam itself. 1442 now, based on the Hijra calendar. Is that correct? My son will correct me if I'm wrong, but it's 1442 years old, and so this is not new. It's just finding a modern solution to that same fundamental pillars of financing. And people would ask me, what is really Islamic finance? And I come from a conventional space in the Silicon Valley, meaning traditional conventional banking, and studied in Malaysia in INSEE for 2 years. But in a nutshell, it's just basically fair dealings among people, to make sure that all of your dealings are fair, and that one and the other are on an equal playing field. Whether it's the investor or the one borrowing the money, whether it's the bank or the one keeping the money. So we just want to make sure that the transaction is fair, and the rules of that is, as I've said, as old as Islam itself, meaning the time of the Prophet ﷺ. So it's not new. However, the challenge is now, how do we adapt that in modern day 2020 sort of situation, where now you have everything going digital. There's a very big opportunity to be able to create many solutions in the digital space. And that's why everyone now is getting into the Islamic digital economy, Islamic finance in the digital space. So yeah, so it's for everyone.
I love that it's a matter or a conversation more about access and diversity for everyone rather than more of like a gender specific conversation. And I'm really excited to see the growth of Islamic finance in Malaysia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Joanne's point earlier about the network thing. So according to Harvard Business Review, right, there's access to financial and human capital, which has been, very much a focus in when we talk about supporting women entrepreneurs. But then there's another key success factor that ends up becoming overlooked, and that's the access to networks or social capital. And interestingly, this foundation called the Asia Foundation, which is an international development organization, found that in Malaysia, the Philippines, and Thailand, women who use established networks and associations are actually 24% more likely to plan for growth than women who don't use such resources. And in addition to that, the businesses of women who use these networks and associations are on average about 38% larger than those of women who don't access or don't have access to such resources. So my question is really to everyone here, which is, what kind of support networks have you personally leveraged to expand your own networks and grow your businesses? And does having a male counterpart help? Elaine, you want to go first?
Sure. I'll go first. I think as you guys already know, my business partner is a male. And a lot of people, including investors and friends and close families, whenever I bring up Anya, they will ask, "Oh, who's your business partner?" And I would say, "Oh, he's a male." We would get questions and be like, "Oh, he's a guy. Does he understand anything about sanitary pads?" And I would say yes. It's because he grows up with his mom and his sister, and these are the people that he loves. So ultimately, if we ask any human being, if you truly care for someone that you love, then you would want to get to know more about that person, right? That applies to period habits as well, I guess. So I mean, having Chris aboard is definitely very, very beneficial. And in terms of roles in the company, we are separated very, very clearly. And he is one of the main supporting pillars when it comes to building Enya to what it is right now. So in terms of network support, if you're talking about people to people connection, I can personally tell you that I'm a highly introverted person. So when I go to any social events or any networking events, I tend to be very shy and I tend to be very reserved. I think I think I think that was one of the points there, but I'm trying to get better. The thing is, yeah, we do leverage our existing networks. So for example, our friends, our business partners, and then yeah, so that's how we slowly expand our network. And back to the second question, does having a male counterpart help? Yes, for us, yes, it does help. Even though we are a women founded, we're female centric, sanitary pads, all women kind of a conversation. What we always wanted to do is to be inclusive as well, because we realized that when it comes to not just women's health, not just period health conversation, conversations, it's very important to get male to be involved in the conversation space as well, and to provide that safe space to talk about it, and not to shame them for asking them things that they genuinely care about. For instance, are you having a period today? Do you want me to get you something? sometimes sometimes I can see some of us, even me including, I would just freak out, like, why are you asking me that? But I think it's the mindset that I need to change, because they truly want to understand like how we're feeling. So yeah, I mean, starting this business with Chris, it has helped the company shape to what we are today, including our culture as well. And not just that, because whatever that we put into the culture, it affects the employees as well. And whatever that the employees are having, the conversations that they're having, it will impact directly to our consumers as well. The consumers will impact the society, and the society as a country in a whole. So it's a domino effect, and it starts from individual, I think, from companies and corporate companies, big or small alike. Yep, it helps.
Joanne, what about you? I'm really interested in understanding what your support networks have been.
Now my board is of 6 CEOs of 6 of the banks of Malaysia. So I'm the only female, and that's always the case in most of the places I go to, whether it's a webinar or a talk or meeting. It's generally just me. My staff is mostly female. I have we try to create balance, and because it's really a lot of females in our staff right now. Our head of IT is female. My corporate services is female. So we try to create a balance and see. I don't think I've tapped into a specific network as you've cited in terms of my journey. For some reason, I never really saw myself too different being female, I guess. When I was in the Silicon Valley, my whole team was male. So I never, I don't know if it's just me, but it never really occurred to me that my being female was an impediment or a handicap or something that needed a leg up. However, that's not what everyone goes through. I recognize that for us to really be successful in terms of promoting equity among the genders, it is necessary that we also as females band together and really help each other. I mean, all of the studies are showing that most of the funding are going to the male because most of the the ones investing are male. So I mean, this is just the nature of the game. So to be able to solve that, I think we as females also need to then be more visible in our take ownership of our money, and help those that help the other females that are also trying to break glass ceilings. Personally, alhamdulillah, I don't feel I've had to really be tied down to being female. Of course, the challenges are different. I mean, that's a different talk altogether. But in terms of being infringed or in terms of being minimized because of my gender, I don't think I can say that I've experienced any significant uh, holding me down. For sure not. But again, for us to be able to give support to the others who are in the journey, I think we have to, as a female population, be more present, especially in the investing space.
That's really insightful. Thank you for that. Ambika, what about your own experience?
in regards with like working with male partners or female partners, I don't think gender is the most important thing. It's more about like whether what you want to achieve and who's the person that can deliver those whatever that you want to do, right? So because we at the end of the day we are looking to achieve gender equity, not necessarily empower women in order to discriminate men. That doesn't work as well. So that is my opinion on that. When it comes to networking, etc., I haven't really had like a networking platform or like a group that I belong to, etc. The one thing is like being part of BGBG Initiative America, we ourselves kind of have, because we've been around and then there's a lot of people came in and went out, right? As well, like Elaine here today. So these are the people that are in our network, in my network. But I think the point that trying to connect with having the male partner, female partner, and the equity access, etc., towards the networking, like it is important. At the end of the day, it's important who you know, right? And like because it's not so much about what you can gain from them, but what you can learn from people also is important. For me, as someone that doesn't come from KL, I did not have the network base in KL to get things done, right? And also I studied overseas. So all my university friends that I could potentially dip into are not here. So I need to start fresh completely. So in that kind of case, it's a lot of the time, the networks that I depend on is actually my partners whose friends are in KL, who is much older. And then there is like, those are the networks that I can tap into. But I would say that it is super, super important to build our own networks, right? But how to go about it, that's the hard part that I'm still struggling.
I don't think anyone ever gets like I don't think there's any one formula that fits all anyway. So I'm glad that you're all finding your own sort of networks and maybe not specifically gender specific, but I think it's great that you are building your own networks. So that's great to know. I'm going to stick with Ambika for a while still. So with regards to this gender gap conversation, I read somewhere that men and women judge eco-friendly products as more feminine than non-green products. Have you ever seen this green gender gap in your work at BGBG America? Like, how do you think it can be addressed, if it even exists at all in Malaysia?
I'm not sure, because immediately I can also think about the men that wanted our products, that buy and support our products. So I think it's more about the design of the product, because our designs were more feminine oriented. And I think if our designs were more male oriented, it would definitely, masculine mostly, it would definitely be more targeted towards the population. So I don't think it's whether it's environmental friendly or not. It's at the end of the day, it's about the consumer wanting to buy the product. That's what I'm learning. It's yes. So yeah, but at the same time, there's also this narrative where women are more concerned about the impacts, the social impacts than environmental. That's why if you go to a corporate boardroom, you may not see women, but if you go to an NGO or CSO boardroom, you'll see a lot of women there. And also if you go, like from my own observation, I haven't looked at all the numbers and see like the real calculation. But most of the time, even in the corporate boards, the positions, the C-suite position that women hold is the Chief Sustainability Officer and CHRO most of the time. These two are very social oriented, environmental oriented as well. The CFOs and CTOs, it's like most of I haven't really seen it much, but in that CHRO scene and also in the CSO scene, the number of males is also lower. So you could be right, like the narrative what you're saying. I'm not sure.
I mean, it is interesting, right? And with having Joanne on our panel today, it just sort of underpins the whole idea that women can occupy any sort of seat anywhere in any company, not just the CSO or the CHRO role. So yeah, I think that's really interesting.
For
Thanks
sure,
for that.
definitely.
Yeah.
It's all capability, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now, Elaine, I know that like, investing in self-care and understanding your body is something that you frequently educate women on through your Instagram following of about like 14,000 followers as of last count. Why do you think that is important? And what do you hope that your customers and followers take away from the content that you share?
I think when it comes to self-care as a whole, we hope to not only address facial products or period care products or building up your body, but also mental health care. I think that is also very important. So, but then back to our company ethos. Of course, we want to talk about vaginal care and our body care and our health care first, because that's what we are. But gradually, that is something that we want to go towards. And I think that it's important to share this content because I feel that the current commercial companies, the really big brands, the big brands out there, I feel what is lacking is emotional connection with direct consumers itself. And nowadays, when we look at the market as a whole, I found out that a lot of the consumers would like to be more emotionally connected and more personally attached to a brand or a company, be it whether or not this company whether or not this company does a lot of CSR campaigns. Whenever you buy a product from them, Body Shop is one very good example. Whether or not this company upcycles your waste and turn it into beautiful products like BGBG, I think people are more aware of all these things. So when it comes to Enya, we not just want to sell you period products and just clap our hands and just walk away. We that's definitely not our goal, because when we started develop the products, when we started to sell it, we realized that, hey, so rashes and discomfort is not only the problem here. we realized that when it comes to education, especially, it's not highly taught across Malaysia, across the curriculum in Malaysia. So we as a brand, we wanted to do something that we are most capable of first. So we started with social media. It's our most direct to consumer platform. It's the most organic way to reach our customers. So we normally interact them in a way of shareable content, educational contents that we post up, because nowadays people are very visual. And we like pictures, and we try to incorporate trendier, shareable user generated content, and we incorporate it with things that you can find in scientific textbooks. For instance, how to care for your vagina. Number one, use a soap to wash with water, for instance. So these are the contents that we try to come up with, because we want to present ourselves not just as like a company that only wants to sell you products. We noticed, this is a very interesting point. We noticed that the more we collaborate with brands and NGOs, we noticed that there is such a thing called period poverty in Malaysia. So period poverty is also it's not talked about, is because in Malaysia there's no specific statistics on it yet. There are no numbers that declare like, oh, maybe 5 out of 10 girls in the school doesn't have sanitary pads. There's no such numbers yet that has been found out in Malaysia. We noticed that it's a huge problem, because here are all of us talking about fighting for rights and fighting for I don't know, like a lot of things that we are caring about right now, but we've also need to focus more on the things that is a necessity for us. Um, for instance, I just know that there's this one particular school in somewhere in Wanutama over there. I can't really name which school, but there are girls there that is sort of struggling financially. Their family is struggling financially to get them sanitary pads, for instance. Um, so this is one of the things that internally we would like to work towards on in terms of education. So Anya, as a period self-care brand, yes, it's important to take care of your health. Yes, it's important to take care of your mental health. But it's also important to take care of others. I think as a company, it's our responsibility to do so, not just putting up research products for our consumers to use, but it's also to address what more can we do in terms of this self-care topic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you've also hit the kind of a lived experience that we all kind of go through, that, you know, when you first have that experience. And I grew up in a time where there was no internet yet. Like I grew up,
Oh.
I don't know that old, but you know, I didn't have Google when I was growing up. And didn't know what to ask, who to ask, whether it was right to ask all these questions. And so
Yes.
you sort of grow up in this little bubble where what your mother, what your sisters tell you is what is all you know.
Yes. Yes.
And I think, you know, this kind of education around women's health in general is really important. So thank you for driving that within Malaysia. Yeah. Yeah. So along the same lines of, I guess, empowering us with education and all of that, along that same lines, you know, being kind of like financially independent as a woman is also super important, right? And like touching on what Joanne mentioned earlier, like being in control of your finance, whether as an investor or even just, you know, being able to sustain yourself is the first step. And so, Joanne, what are the ways you would propose that women can achieve this?
We'll divide it into two groups. I suppose it's easier to explain. In many societies, it is the one that is really controlling the purse or the wallet is the female. It's the mother. The dad would give the money for everything, and the mom budgets it. So for the more and I think that's true for the Philippines where I'm coming from. That's true from people that I know here in Malaysia. The decision maker of who and what to buy is basically the women's. I think we have to go deeper. I'm not so sure if the investment bit is also then done by her as well. So that is an area I haven't really looked at. But overall idea is that many societies, it's quite matriarchal, where the woman has the money and she's able to spend and save. And I suppose when she saves, she can invest. So by default, she can invest too. Is it all of the money of the family and the dad keeps some? I don't know. So for the younger ones, of course you're going to have to earn your money first, save. This is the things we're trying to teach the children now. You have a budget, you save. We try to teach them, although food is in school, it's given for free, it's part of the tuition fee. We give them a budget for the week. It's up to you. You save it, you buy gifts for your friends, you want to buy this, you want to buy that. It's really up to you. So at a very young age, we have to train our children, female or male, to be able to handle their money, and that becomes ingrained in them, and they see the value of money. The Chinese and the Indians are very famous for being able to be frugal and know how to make money and save money. Hard work. I've always admired my Chinese friends and my Indian friends who really know how to value money because they earn it. And even if they have, their parents teach them how to earn the money. And I think this is something that we have to learn from and be inspired with as well. Then of course, when you become older and you've saved a bundle of whatever that is, you grow that, whether by working or being an entrepreneur. It's financial literacy, but more so in the women talk, I think it's empowering our girls, that they can do whatever they want really, and there's no stopping them from doing what they wish to do, whether they're male or female. It shouldn't be specific to gender.
That's a really good clarion call, actually. I don't have kids, but for those of you who are watching who have children, you better start planning now and teaching them that. And like, I think I just want to wrap up this discussion before we go into the Q&A, but, you know, just going back to the actual topic of today, right? We've spoken a lot about a lot of things. But I also want to ask you, you know, how were you personally invested in when you were growing up, and how have you invested back?
Do I start with me first?
Sure.
Invested in what terms, Eunice? Like invest.
How did people invest in you, either personally, socially, financially, or whatever? And how have you invested back into the ecosystem, I suppose, whatever ecosystem that you roam in?
Oh, I see. I think when you mentioned that, right, the first thing I think about is my family.
Yes.
I would say from, well, the day I was born until now, both my parents have set a very good foundation for me and my siblings. Not to say like we are very rich. That's not it. What I mean is like they've set a very good example for us. Meaning to say, they make sure that we get education. Probably they're always there whenever we need their advice. Um, they're just generally very good examples to look up to, and they provide that very strong layer for me. And in terms of what they've invested in me, I think apart from advice, apart from um, I think it's example, is their attributes and their traits that they showed me that I've seen, and then in terms of how I bring it back, I always, whenever I'm leading the team, for example, I always think about how my dad how my dad runs the household. I don't know if that makes sense, but I always think about that because my dad is a very patient person, and he empathizes people a lot. And even though even though on the outlook he's very fierce, but he's actually not. And he gets that sort of respect from people, and people fear him. But sometimes when it's time to show kindness, and when it's time, even if it's not the time to show kindness, he will still show kindness to anybody that he knows. So bringing back to the company, I think that has helped me a lot to shaping um, how I lead Enya today. And we were not a very big team as well. We were just a very small team of 5 people. So I think, well, in terms of leading the team, we are progressing. And every day, whenever I have troubles, I will think about how my dad is in terms of leading the household and also leading his team in his company. Yeah, the physical, emotional, mental attributes that I learned from him.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
I hope I didn't go out of topic.
No, it's very, I mean, it's very relatable, right? Family is the first sort of idea of, you know, education or other kind of leadership that you experience sort of What about you, Ambika? Do you feel the same way?
Yes, I agree 100% with what Elaine said. Yeah, in regards of investment, a lot of people definitely invested in me. And they laid the foundation for me, right? And there are people that are still investing in me because there's like at different parts of your life, there's different level of guidance that we need. And so that's what we get, right? And that's why whatever I'm doing, it's there. And this is where I just wanted to point a thing about how the investment into your child and also how parents actually enables or disables you to be who you are. I've been seeing a lot with the people that I work with and from our intern, etc. Right, like how the parents treat like the girl child and the male child makes the whole difference on the career progression of the girl child and the male child. Because if the parents say that you have to come back by 10 p.m., right, in case in the office there's something that's due today and the girl child is forced to go home, who's going to get the promotion next month? It's so easy, right? And the same question, it's like parents say like you have to be back home by this time, right? And especially if you are from a poor family, cannot afford your own transportation or taking public transport in Malaysia, you don't get public transport good quality after 9 o'clock, right? Especially if you're out of the LRT and MRT line. Means you have to be out of the office by 7 p.m. and catch like 2-3 things buses to get home. So in that case, who's gonna be there to with the manager to actually do the job? Then of course, who's gonna get the promotion? So I'm seeing these things like, so I don't think like why the corporate women are not getting to the corporate officers, right? I don't think it's not because they are not capable or they can't do it. Maybe we don't have the structures. If let's say the public transport runs anywhere in the city until 12 a.m., then probably we will see a lot more corporate women, corporate leaders. And the same goes like networking events, right? Always happens in the evening. If you got, then it's not also about gender, it's also about the income and equality, right? So if you are from the poor background, you have to take public transport, means you can't go to the networking event lah, right? So this is what I wanted to point out, going back a bit out of the topic, I guess. So investing back into things, I'm very passionate about social and environmental stuff, and my hope is that all the investment that I've gotten into from all the different people, the way for me to give back is to make sure I'm more interested in structures, processes, and procedures, not like helping one person, but building an ecosystem. So I hope that I'll be able to design and develop ecosystems that will help a lot more people to achieve an equitable world faster lah. Yeah.
That sounds very admirable, and I'm fully supportive of that.
Thank
What
you.
about you, Joanne?
Yeah, so I mean, we've been talking about financing from my side. No? I think the most important investment that one can make is time. Huh? I always tell my children this because money can be earned back, yeah? Time cannot. So when the investment of your parents, the investment of your friends, the investment of your mentors, these are the real investment that's uh, made to you, more than the money, I think, because again, of all of the resources that we have, one that we cannot take back or earn again is the time. So many people have given me their time to allow me to be where I am now. And of course, that's family, that's your peers, that's your staff, that's your team, that's everyone, from the person who drove me to work to my nanny growing up. I mean, all of these are people who invested in me, and in giving back, I think whatever time or resources I have, of course, within the family, you try to be a better parent, you try to be a better friend, but of course, to share that resources and that time to the people that are around you. in the most simplest of ways and in the most grand of ways when you create projects that impact a whole neighborhood or a whole country. But we don't minimize what small things can do within the home, within the neighborhood, and within our circles of friends. You've mentioned about mental health. One of the reasons why there's rampant problems of mental health more than ever is because I think we've been too busy to listen to our friends, to listen to our sister, to our children, to our parents, because it just got so complicated, I suppose, nowadays. But I think it's the offering of the time is when everyone can give back.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, that really time is money, right? So thank you so much for your time here. I'm just gonna head down to Q&A. I think we only have time for one, very overshot. But I think we have a question for Joanne, which was, how is your experience like working in Silicon Valley? If you can briefly touch upon that.
I suppose it grilled me to the bones. And being there in my early 20s, where I was in the rat race of everything, really grilled me to the bones. I remember one night I would share to people, I had to stay on, and I was wearing the same exact thing because there's just too many emails and everything else. But with all of that, you learn, you learn the importance of time. You also learn that all of this will just come and go, as I've said in the introduction. It's really holding on to your values, because everything will evolve, everything will come and go. But if you hold on to your values, whether you're in the Silicon Valley or whether you're in Taiping has been my adoptive kampong, by the way. It doesn't really matter, it is what you hold value to the most: environment, family, friends, whatever that may be, nation, sisterhood, and you hold on to that, and everything else will just flow through.
Thank you so much for that. It's very big picture thinking, and I think you only really figure it out after you've experienced it, as I've realized. But maybe I like to learn the hard way, I don't know. But yeah, I just want to say that I think that's about all the time we have for today. I want to thank you so much, Ambika, Eileen, and Joanne, for your time and your valuable insights. And thank you everyone for taking the time to be part of today's webinar. I know there were 2 other questions that we didn't manage to get to. But if there's any time at all after this webinar, I'm probably going to shoot those questions over to you ladies and then get you to answer them anyway. And then we can put that up on our blog. So as I mentioned earlier, a copy of this recording will be up soon on our blog, and I'll reach out to you to share that with you soon. So on a closing note, I just want to encourage all of you to join us on Funnel to stay updated on our upcoming webinars. If you have any follow-up questions, or if you want access to more information about us or today's guests, just feel free to reach out to me. And thank you once again. Thank you to our speakers as well. We hope to see you again at our next virtual event. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us, Ines. Yeah.
Thank you. Especially Ambika and Joanne as well. Thank you so much for having your time off work a while just to spend this chat with us. I think it's very important, especially I don't really get to meet a lot of women leaders like you guys. So it's a pleasure to be around this circle with you. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
No worries. It's our pleasure as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Salam.
All right. Have a good day.
Bye. Have a good evening. Bye.
Bye.